everybody. Well, spoke to two professional missing persons search organizations, one in California and one here in Texas. And I'm not going to release the names of the companies because I asked and they said they didn't. They were familiar with the online chaos and didn't want to be involved. So both of them said essentially the same thing. They said that if they were to come in on a case like this at this point, first things first, that it would be more geared towards a recovery. So with that in mind, that would kind of gear the way in which they search. So he said that typically these guys, both it's a formula, like CPR. Doesn't matter who does it; it's kind of the same all over. That first things he said was to look for areas around where the kids went missing from, dead ends, that sort of thing. And then I explained to him how the terrain was there. And he said, so, areas where he may have felt comfortable, areas where, he was, he had been seen before, things of that nature. But then he said something that was pretty interesting. I don't want to say interesting for the people that'll take that the wrong way, but it was very insightful. And what he said was that in his particular opinion, if he were to bring a team and be given all the evidence, all of everything that's available as far as data for the case, first thing he would do is go to the waterways. He said the waterways are a really easy way to disconnect yourself from the crime and the evidence. It subconsciously, a lot of people, for whatever reasons, will dump dead bodies near the water or the waterways. So he went more into detail, and he explained how typically the dump spots are places of least resistance, paths of least resistance. So, he said one of the things that they do is they'll go to where they suspect dump sites have been, and then they'll go to the first, horseshoe or the first 90-degree bend in the river or the waterway and look there. Because a lot of times things that are dumped in the water will go around a sharp bend and get hung up on the sides or what have you. Now, he said that bodies that are submerged in the water that are weighed down, if they're not weighed down properly, in about 2 days, 2 to 3 days, they'll come to the surface. And when they come to the surface like that, if they're uninterrupted, they can bounce around like that for weeks, until at which point they would go down and just stay down and tumble along the bottom. So he said that you can cover a lot of search area by being on the waterways, and it's a viable place, instead of kind of just kicking around and searching places that he's knows already been searched before. He said he'd go to the last place anyone would think, and that rung true in my mind. It was like, when you lose your keys, it's like they're always in the last place you would think, usually. And I think that goes, he also spoke about what's called an intern dump. site, which is where they would potentially dump something because they felt comfortable there. And then when the heat was turned on, that this person could go back to that place they felt comfortable and move the bodies. So, you know, again, I think for searchers that are actually on the ground, I think that, at this point, it was easy for me to reach out and talk to a professional search group. A lot of them are not nonprofits. A majority of them are nonprofits. So, not to say that those sorts of services aren't in play in Cal City now, but it was easy to get that information. The guy was very, very insightful and said that, basically no professional search team is, and the first thing he asked was there foul play. I did not record the call, but the first thing he said was there foul play? And when he asked me, was there foul play? I said, the chief did make a statement very early on under the presumption there was foul play. So he said, oh yeah, so it's not a search for live bodies, it's a recovery. And so with that in mind, that most definitely changes the direction of where you would search, right? If you're the people that believe the boys are still alive, then that kind of, in a sense, becomes more of a white collar investigation. Because at this point, if they're still alive, then they're being hid well, and it would only be through a digital footprint or fingerprint that this thing would come, to light. But with the formulas and everything that law enforcement uses, of course, the first 48, 72, 96 are the most critical. And after this amount of time, they very seldom bring them home alive. And so, again, with that in mind, it's like if you're searching for something, you want to go the best possible route, A to B, the path of least resistance. So I think that it's maybe time to look a different way or a different place. I think that budgeting and politics and all those other things are definitely things that make, river searching and all of that difficult, then you end up having, you have groups that want to come out and, they're even hamstrung by certain ordinances and different things that'll keep them from going down there and doing certain searches. And so it becomes a deal where, the politics, reign supreme. And, I have a tendency to agree with the professional search guy when he said if you believe that it's a recovery, you're going to search in one fashion. If you believe that it's you're trying to find two live boys, then you're going a totally different route. So I guess as a searcher, the first thing I would ever have to do was determine which side of that I was on. And I think there's a reason why law enforcement has these formulas. So they have the formulas, and I don't, tell me what you guys think. And I challenge anyone to try to call a professional search group. They'll get the same information, essentially. So, yeah, tell me what you think. Thanks for watching.